What's going on, y'all? It's Pooty here, and as you know, as I said, I'm going to be covering the NBA for every week as a recap, and this is the second week. Now, I wasn't expecting to do anything this whole week because it's All-Star Week, but all the drama is coming up. I gotta make something. So, hope you guys like this. Subscribe. You know what to do. Let's get into this video. So, to start off this week, we all know the whole Zion fiasco that's been going on. If you don't know, basically Zion and the Pelicans and everyone has just been getting this whole big fiasco because no one really knows what's going on with Zion. He's very, very quiet about what's going on in his camp, and this whole injury history and all this other stuff. Not only that, but he hasn't really talked much to CJ McCollum ever since he got traded to the team, which does come off as a big deal because CJ McCollum is a big name player. And when a big name player doesn't get any recognition by the star of the team, it does seem kind of suspicious. Along with that, it also came out that apparently he's not in the season ticket plans for next year's team, which also came out, and people were making a big deal about it. I don't know if it's that big of a deal, but it is interesting to look at. So I don't know what's going on with that whole organization. As you know, JJ Redick's been making a bunch of comments about it, calling it unprofessional, saying all this stuff about Zion. But to be honest, I'm in the sort of in the middle with all this sort of stuff, because on one side, I do understand what people are saying, because I definitely think that Zion should be talking to CJ McCollum 100%. But people are on it like way too hard. Like even CJ McCollum was saying himself in a quote. He said, "Bro, you guys gotta chill out a little bit. It's not that big of a deal." So honestly, I'm in the middle of this whole thing. I hope it all works out, but if it doesn't, you can come to the Knicks, so who cares? Speaking of my Knicks, teams with the hardest schedules left are 1, the Milwaukee Bucks, 2, the Bulls, 3, the Lakers, 4, the Knicks, and 5, the Jazz. So that's tough for you Milwaukee Bucks, Chicago Bulls, Utah Jazz, and Lakers fans, but for Knicks fans, it's really just a regular season for us. So speaking of that, apparently James Wiseman is going to be coming back from his injury March 1st.
Yesterday, in the show that did not get published, Dieter revealed, and at first I said, "Is that speculative?" And he replied, "No." He says he has a source that tells him that James Wiseman will be playing on March 1st. That's not that long away. That, I believe, is 10 days before we finally see the former number 2 pick in just a year ago is going to be on the court.
It's going to be very interesting to see him back because it feels like it's been forever. I don't even have really seen him play much NBA basketball at all. But it's going to be interesting to see how he comes back to this Warriors team and helps them out. I think he can help out a lot in the playoffs or whatever they plan on doing with him. I don't know if he's going to go back into the G League or if he's going to get minutes right away. Who knows? But it's going to be interesting because I've always questioned the James Wiseman fit on the team. So maybe we'll be able to see his improvement over time. Who knows what's going to happen? But good news for Warriors fans because this move is just going to make the Warriors much better than they already are. James Harden is expected to make his debut tonight. It's a Friday. I don't know if this is going to be uploaded today or tomorrow. Most likely tomorrow. But you know, he's going to be playing. So we're going to be able to see how he actually plays with Joel Embiid because I'm really questioning the move and whether or not it's going to work for them. I don't think it's as 100% going to work as people make it seem. And I have this whole video on the Nets and stuff and what's going on with what happened with that big three. We're going to talk about that another time. Speaking of the Nets, we're obviously all waiting for when Ben Simmons is going to make his debut. I don't know when that's going to be, but we've obviously seen him in practices. We've seen him practicing with Kyle Korver and stuff like that. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see his debut in the next couple of weeks, most likely. Probably around the same time that Kevin Durant comes back, he will be back on the court. Speaking of that new Nets big three, we obviously have to talk about Kyrie Irving. Apparently the mandates are getting lifted in New York City, so we should see Kyrie Irving back playing in Brooklyn soon, which is going to be very interesting to see, seeing that big three, or that new big three I guess now, play together. And obviously he's going to come in a lot of handy come playoff time, so we're going to see how this goes. It's also come out that apparently the tensions between the camp of LeBron James and Rob Pelinka have been very, very high, and we've heard about this before. Obviously this whole thing about Russell Westbrook and John Wall, basically apparently there's talks inside LeBron's camp that they wanted Rob Pelinka, the GM of the Lakers, to trade Russell Westbrook for John Wall at this trade deadline, but because there was no moves at all, they're obviously not very happy. I don't know if these are words coming straight from LeBron James. They're only saying his camp, but I wouldn't be surprised if he holds the same narrative. Who knows with him, honestly. He's very, very quiet about this kind of stuff. He wouldn't say this about his own teammates and stuff. But it should be obvious that things are not looking good in LA. And I don't know what their plan is come off-season time. As we know, we're also holding about whether LeBron's going to stay this off-season or he's going to go find a new team once he's a free agent by the time his brother is like I said, his brother? I meant his son is able to play. Now, here's the thing about it, though. Do I know what this whole thing... I mean, there's been a lot of talk about this whole week. Do I know what's going to happen? No. Do I care? No. But I do want to say this. I don't know how good a 40-year-old LeBron will play. I'm not expecting him to fall off. All I'm saying is I'm not expecting the same LeBron now to be playing with Bronny James. That's all. The thing about it is this, all right? It's going to be interesting to see what team drafts him and what decision he makes based on that. I don't know if he's just going to actually go to any team that does draft him. That's going to be very interesting, and that's going to raise his stock like crazy, especially come draft time. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens with LeBron as he's getting older, and obviously he still wants to win championships. He still wants to catch up to MJ, whether or not he's already up to him, in my opinion. But, you know, it's going to be interesting to see what move he makes, so we'll see. Harrison Barnes, the Draymond Green, obviously had this whole thing going on. It's kind of small, but it is interesting to hear about it because this is something that I also thought about back in the day. I mean, Harrison Barnes sort of just got pushed out of that whole Golden State Warriors team for, you know, Kevin Durant. And, you know, there's this all talk about whether or not tensions between Draymond Green, who basically recruited Kevin Durant, and Harrison Barnes are really well. And according to him, they're not great. Does it really matter? Not really, but it is something interesting to know. It is something that they'll probably think about and talk about in the future. Oh, and I forgot to mention earlier, apparently Kemba Walker's not playing anymore. I don't care because he's trash. Oh, and one more thing. Apparently LeBron James will be getting sued by Kyle Rittenhouse. So, yeah. Why the... Anyway, that's it for this week. Yeah, we're back next week. We're going to keep covering for the rest of the season. So I'll see you next week, and that's all I got to say.